ever feel like you're searching for answers, like some sense of peace in this crazy, messy world?
Yeah.
What if I told you the key isn't about finding some external solution, but about tapping into something already within you? That's what we're diving into today, with Pema Chödrön's Start Where You Are.
It's a truly fitting title because Chödrön, she doesn't sugarcoat the human experience.
Right.
She dives right into the heart of it.
Yeah.
This idea that we already possess everything we need for a compassionate life.
So we don't need some elaborate self-help plan or a life overhaul.
Right.
That's interesting, but how does that actually work?
Well, think of it this way. Our true nature, that capacity for compassion, is always there, like the sun. Sometimes it's hidden behind clouds, our negative thoughts, our anxieties, our fears. But the sun is always shining, even if we can't always see it.
Okay, that makes sense, but we all know those clouds can feel pretty darn real and overwhelming.
Right.
Chödrön talks about these Lojong teachings. Is that where these practical tools come in?
Absolutely. These slogans, distilled from centuries of Buddhist wisdom, they aren't about forcing positivity or ignoring the difficult stuff. They're about shifting our perspective.
Okay.
About recognizing that clinging to fleeting experiences, both good and bad, is what often causes us suffering.
You mean like when we get that promotion we've been working towards and it feels amazing, but then the fear of messing it up creeps in?
Exactly.
Or the flip side, getting passed over for the promotion and spiraling into self-doubt.
Precisely. Yeah. We grasp onto these fleeting feelings, these highs and lows, instead of seeing them for what they are, temporary states that come and go like the weather.
So how do we stop this grasping? How do we actually apply that in those moments when our emotions feel so intense?
One practice Chödrön highlights is simply labeling those thoughts as thinking.
Okay.
Instead of getting swept away in the current of I'm so happy or I'm a failure, we acknowledge, this is just thinking.
Mm-hmm.
This creates a space, a pause button, allowing us to detach from the intensity of the experience.
Interesting. So rather than trying to force those feelings away, we're creating some distance, some breathing room.
Yes, exactly. And this is especially important when it comes to the messy, uncomfortable emotions, the ones we usually rather avoid.
Because let's be honest, those are the ones that really tend to throw us off balance.
Right.
Chödrön talks about these emotions as three poisons.
Yes. And this framework helps us understand how even neutral experiences can become fuel for suffering.
Okay.
We encounter something pleasant like a compliment, and craving arises.
Right.
We face something unpleasant like a traffic jam, and aversion, anger, frustration bubbles up.
Yeah.
Even neutral experiences, the mundane everyday stuff, can lead to ignorance, to a kind of mindlessness or apathy.
So it's not really about the experience itself, but our reaction to it.
That's right.
Is that where this idea of befriending the unwanted comes in?
Precisely. Instead of pushing these emotions away or worse, judging ourselves for having them.
Yeah.
Chödrön encourages us to meet them with a gentle curiosity.
Okay.
To feel the soft spot beneath the anger, the sadness, the fear.
It almost sounds, I don't know, counterintuitive, right? Like if I'm feeling angry, the last thing I want to do is get cozy with that anger.
It's definitely a practice, and it takes courage.
Yeah.
Think about the story of Milarepa, the Tibetan yogi, who found his cave overrun by demons.
Okay, I've heard of Milarepa, but haven't gotten around to reading those stories yet. What happened?
He tried everything to get rid of them. Reasoning, bargaining, even getting angry.
Wow.
But nothing worked. It was only when he finally surrendered.
Okay.
When he stopped resisting and invited the demons to stay.
What? That
they began to vanish.
So it's the resistance itself that's actually making things worse.
Yeah.
That's quite the lesson.
Right.
But how does that translate to those everyday demons, those unwanted emotions we carry around?
Chödrön teaches a powerful meditation practice called Tonglen.
Okay.
Might sound a bit strange at first, but it's about intentionally breathing in suffering and breathing out relief.
Now hold on a second. Breathing in suffering, that doesn't seem very joyful or compassionate, especially not towards myself.
It's not about seeking out suffering or dwelling in it.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a deep sense of empathy for ourselves and and others. When we breathe in, we connect with the universality of suffering, acknowledging that we aren't alone in our pain, our fear, our doubt.
Right.
And when we breathe out, we offer relief, kindness, and compassion.
That's quite a shift in perspective.
It is.
It's not about pretending those difficult emotions don't exist, but acknowledging them, holding them lightly, and realizing we're not alone in experiencing them.
Yes. And Chödrön shares a story about a student who felt deeply humiliated in a bar.
Ah.
Through practicing Tonglen, he was able to shift from his own feelings of shame to a wider sense of compassion for everyone who's ever felt that sting of embarrassment, that fear of not belonging.
There's something quite profound in that.
Yeah.
Realizing we all share these very human experiences. It's almost like those difficult people we encounter,
right.
The ones who push our buttons, they become our teachers in a way, right?
You're picking up what Chödrön is putting down.
I think so.
She talks about this idea of being grateful to everyone.
Okay.
Which isn't about condoning bad behavior.
Right.
But recognizing that those who trigger us, who annoy us, are often reflecting back parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge.
It's fascinating how often we resist those uncomfortable feelings and reactions instead of seeing them as, opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
But even when we understand that intellectually, putting it into practice,
right.
Especially when someone's pushing our buttons, well, that's a whole other story, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like Chödrön's analogy of the woman who rigged her bathroom scale to always show a certain weight.
Okay.
We do the same thing with our self-image, don't we?
Yeah.
We crave control.
Right.
Manipulating situations and interactions to fit this idealized version of ourselves.
It's that need for validation, for applause, even if it means contorting ourselves to get it. No wonder we feel squeezed. But how do we break free from that cycle?
Chödrön would say it's about not expecting applause.
Okay.
It's a practice of showing up authentically, offering compassion freely without needing something in return.
Okay.
This doesn't mean becoming a doormat, but rather acting from a place of genuine kindness, regardless of the outcome.
So if we're always focused on the reward, the recognition, are we truly living compassionately?
Right.
Or are we just, feeding our egos?
It's a question worth pondering, isn't it?
Yeah.
True joy, true fulfillment often arises not from achieving some external goal, but from letting go of that rigid pursuit.
Okay.
Chödrön talks about abandoning any hope of fruition.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit jarring,
Yeah.
especially in our achievement-oriented society.
It does make you stop and think.
Yeah.
Is it about detaching from the outcome, from that constant striving for something more?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that happiness, that sense of peace, isn't some distant destination.
Right.
We arrive at once. We've ticked off all the boxes on our to-do list.
Yeah.
It's about finding a sense of contentment,
Okay.
of gratitude in the present moment, even amidst the messiness.
And that ties back to the beginning, doesn't it?
It does.
That idea that we already have everything we need.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to lose sight of that in the day-to-day.
Absolutely. Life is messy. It throws curveballs, and those clouds of doubt and fear are bound to arise.
Yeah.
But the tools, the practices, Tonglen, labeling our thoughts, remembering the Bengali tea boy,
Yeah.
they're always available to us.
And as we cultivate this compassionate way of being, how does that impact the way we communicate with others, especially when disagreements arise?
It's about shifting from a stance of defensiveness to one of openness, of truly listening to understand,
Yeah.
rather than just waiting for our turn to speak.
Right.
Chödrön uses that humorous example from Dr. Seuss,
Okay.
the Zacks, who refused to budge on that narrow path.
Right.
They're so caught up in their own righteousness that they become stuck,
Yeah.
unable to move forward.
I think we've all encountered a Zacks or two in our lives, but it's a good reminder that sometimes our own rigidity, our need to be right, can prevent us from finding common ground.
Precisely. And compassionate communication isn't about smoothing things over or pretending disagreements don't exist. It's about approaching those conversations with a willingness to see the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
Even if we don't agree with it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Pema Chödrön's Start Where You Are, what's the key takeaway you hope listeners will carry with them?
It's the idea that compassionate living isn't some grand achievement reserved for the enlightened few.
Okay.
It's an ongoing practice, a commitment to showing up with more kindness, more awareness each and every day. And the most beautiful part is we can start right now.
Right.
Exactly where we are.
Train wholeheartedly, as Chödrön would say. Not for the applause, not for some future reward, but because it's the path to greater freedom, greater joy, and ultimately a more compassionate world.
Well